The CWL Play-In drawing show has officially concluded, and we now know where the final 28 teams sit in the four groups leading into what should be probably one of my most favorite tournaments heading into the Black Ops 4 season. To kind of give a quick summary on what exactly the Pro League Play-In tournament is, I want to kind of give a little bit of a foundation for those who don't already know the format, because I know it kind of is a little bit confusing. It maybe wasn't fully explained to those outright, so I want to kind of give a little bit of a background. Essentially, it is the top 28 teams that will be competing in four separate groups. The top two from each group automatically qualify for the Pro League. The third through fifth place team faces off in a double elimination winners bracket, while the bottom sixth and seventh place team are immediately eliminated. So that kind of puts it a little bit more in perspective. This tournament takes place from January 16th through the 20th, live from the MLG Arena in Columbus, Ohio. So we're going to have the groups. We're going to be talking about the groups, but I want to more specifically talk on my group of death, because as soon as the groups were made, as soon as they were announced, put on a graphic, and I saw them, I said, okay, this is pretty simple. We already know what the group of death is. We already know what the pool of death is, and you can look no further than the first one. It is Pool A, and I can understand, I can get a case for Pool B as maybe a soft runner-up, but Pool A to me, you should look no further as the official group of death. We have Team Sween, Reciprocity, FaZe Clan, Mazer Gaming, FC Black, Team Divine, and Enigma 6. To me, the core three you have to look at least as far as this group are considered, are going to be Team Sween, Reciprocity, and FaZe Clan. And I don't know exactly what you're going to get out of these teams. That to me is the major thing to be looking out for. I don't know what we're going to get from these three, and that's the issue. You can look at different groups, and the reason why I chose A more specifically was I looked at the core three, and I said, okay, this one, I really don't know how it's going to play out. The other ones I feel like are somewhat basic. Like I can kind of get an initial top two. However, from this particular group, I can't really choose a particular one. So I want to kind of go through the top three in this situation, and I'm going to start off with Team Sween. Finished top 6 at CWL Vegas after coming from the open bracket, pulled off probably one of the craziest runs that we've seen in recent tournament history, and it's funny enough, it started off Black Ops 4. They shocked everyone by finishing 9-0 in map count in their group, beating teams like 100 Thieves, Reciprocity, funny enough, who's in this group, and Mind Freak. And this is a scary team who, even after Vegas, is still dominating in 2Ks, which are composed of other European teams that have, like I said, rosters of like Lightning Pandas, Imperial, Giants, Fact Revolution, the Team Heretics is in there, et cetera, et cetera. They're still dominating. And versus, and in those 2K tournaments that I'm referencing to, where they actually won first place, in teams who they faced off against in those tournaments, who are in the play-in, they are 12-2 in map count. So I give them credit, right? I give them all the credit in the world, all the European team hype that everyone was talking about, saying, oh, well, look out for Reciprocity, look out for Red Reserve, look out for all these teams heading into Vegas, and it's Team Sween, who ends up being in the top spot, a team who totally shocked most of the Call of Duty community and quite a few analysts as well along the way, including myself. So I give them all the credit, but this is my worry. The first event of the year is always crazy, right? You look back and you see the previous victors of the last few seasons. I will say Black Ops 4, more consistent with what I think is going to happen throughout the year. But you look at other teams that have kind of floated to the top. We think back to Infinite Warfare and even, titles beyond that, where it was like the most random teams all of a sudden come out and they dominate. They even win the tournament from time to time. And it's not at all what we expected or even predicted. And that's what I think might be happening to Team Sween. And that isn't a discredit to saying that they are, not no longer a good squad. It's, to me, is that the way the first tournament is always formatted is that most teams are on the same skill level coming in. We don't know all the tips. We don't know all the tricks. We don't know what weapon combos are the things to be looking out for. The game will never be as close. Like, the teams will never be as close as they are from the beginning of the very first tournament toward the end. It is the closest that it will ever be at Vegas. And that's the thing that I'm a little bit worried about Team Sween is how much better are they getting, right? They are in Europe. And that's the thing to be mentioning. Reciprocity, Red Reserve, previously Spliced, they're no longer there. You no longer have practice versus them. Like, you have practice versus Mad Cat's team, and that's about it. Like, you don't really have anyone else to face off against who should be on your same skill level when you look at placements from Vegas. And I will say, two players that I'm really excited to be looking out for when it comes down to this Team Sween roster are going to be Nolson as well as Dylan. They were playing fantastic. Two players who I were really interested to watch, especially Dylan. With all the hype that was kind of coming around him heading into Vegas, he absolutely lived up to it. Next roster, going to be Team Reciprocity. I like this group a lot, and I'll be honest, probably a major core of the reason why I like this team so much is pretty much based off of their YouTube series. They've been uploading a ton of YouTube content, kind of going behind the scenes, seeing how this team works, and the chemistry that they're developing is great to see. And one thing that I also like about Reciprocity and the advantage that I feel that they have now versus Team Sween, who is in some way their European counterpart, is that Reciprocity is constantly scrimming. They're constantly in pro downs. They're facing off against squads who are better than them. They're getting better practice. As far as Vegas is considered, right, they finished third in their group as far as Reciprocity, including a 3-0 loss from Team Sween. They later got knocked out by Evil Geniuses in the losers bracket. But one thing I am a little bit worried about regarding Reciprocity is their recent placement in the Pro Down. Like, they were looking pretty good in the past ones, but for some reason, they decided to finish off with a top 16 placement. And I will say, I haven't seen as much rapid improvement from this group that I had hoped I would. Like, when this team formed, it was the matter of, oh, the international squad. We have Dins coming over from Australia. How is this going to really make this team work? And originally I was thinking, okay, hey, where's the slime power coming from? We knew that Dens was a solid flex, right, back in previous titles, especially World War II. Fantastic player along with Shocks on Mindfreak. However, we haven't seen the same development. We haven't really seen the main core finish the way that I was expecting that they would at least improve from after Vegas, which they finished top 12 at. They were one thing that's interesting to me that I was looking through the stats about in the original issue, like I said, that I had with Reciprocity, was that where is the slang coming from? Like, who are the main three that we're looking at? And they were top, despite placing top 12, by the way, despite placing top 12, 9th through 12th at Vegas, they were in total 16th in Team Respawn KD at a 0.94. Okay, well, what's their search and destroy? 20th. They were 20th in Team S&D KD at a 0.87. They only had one player, which was Wuskin, who had a positive KD at the tournament. And like I said, the issue with this team, when it first formed, and I said, okay, hey, who's the lead? Where's the top three coming from? Who do I have to look at? The teams who finished off in the top four, they all had somewhat of a defined top three. We look at Optic Gaming. Pretty much it was Dashy, it was Scump, and it was Crim6 or TJ, depending on the map. E United was, for the most part, Arcides, Abizi, and Clayster. Splice was what? Temp, Looney, and then at times Aqua and Accuracy. And for LG, right? Gunless, John, and Formal. They're just, to me, with this Reciprocity lineup, it's almost like they all have to improve together, or we need to see a defined three kind of step up for me to, without question, put them getting into the Pro League or getting out in the top two spots, because it's just a little bit cloudy for me still. Next roster we have to talk about is going to be FaZe Clan, right? Recent roster move, picking up Celium in place of Methods. As far as FaZe's run at CWL Vegas, they actually ended up finishing third in their group, losing to Straight Rippin' as well as Lightning Pandas. The only positive, and I think it was their first game of the entire tournament, they actually beat Envy in a Game 5, and I was thinking to myself, wow, okay, this is pretty great, right? The defending champions plus Hook are taken down by FaZe. This is looking pretty good. They were my sleeper team coming into Vegas, for God's sake. But they unfortunately ended up finishing top 16. Keeping in mind the event prior, which was World War II champs, they placed top 3. And they barely lost to the team who placed second, which was Team Caliber. Keeping that in mind, right, the momentum that you think that they would have, the transition, and I know everyone says, Landon, World War II to Black Ops 4, title to title, it's not always the same. And I agree to a point, but there are, at times, similarities. So now for FaZe, to me, Celium is the key. FaZe went out on a limb and they said, you know what? We're going to drop by far our best statistical player for someone who has never played on not just a professional organization before, but has never played at a major LAN in his life. He just turned the age of 18. Literally going out on a limb. We're dropping our best player, statistically, right? In Methods, we're dropping him, and we're picking up a guy who is defined as unproven. CWL Vegas, what were some of FaZe's averages without Methods? Because I talked about their statistical difference when Methods is on the team, and then you look at him, you take him away, and see how they played. Without Methods, FaZe had an average of a 0.94 KD in Hardpoint, a 0.89 KD in Search and Destroy, and in Respawn, they were right at a 1, and overall, they had a 0.97 KD. Methods statistically either tied or led them in every KD stat. So with that in mind, right, we take the statistics in mind, we take in consideration that regarding a lot of the community, Memphis was the best player on this team. And now the spotlight just got even brighter toward this guy Celium. He just turned the age of 18, first event on one of the biggest organizations in Call of Duty Esports history, or even now in esports history, right? And you're the replacement for what the community considers to be as their best player. FaZe has quite literally said, hey, Celium, here's the keys, buddy. Here's your chance. Now perform. And to me, this is different. And I had an interview with Attach, and we were kind of going back and forth in one of the previous segments on the Dispatch. And we were kind of discussing, and I was saying, hey, this is kind of different, right? When we talk about Dashy's quick come up, that's always the answer. Dashy and Abizi, those guys, they had the quick come up. It was, it was a flawless, quick transition for them. And that is not at all the same situation, right? Abizi had already been playing on LAN before. Dashy had been playing Infinite Warfare Champs. He played the entire year of World War II before Optic even thought about adding him to the team, and he wasn't even their first option. So the fact that FaZe is going out on a limb and picking up a player who has never played on LAN before is a little bit worrisome. I will say, with all things considered, I am very excited to see how Celium plays, and I think he's going to be a top player. I would give him a pass. If he doesn't have a solid event here with pretty much the season on the line for FaZe, this is their year. Like, if you don't make it in a pro league, it's kind of like, okay, well, we have tournaments to look forward to, but the major portion of our season, the major portion of our title is done. And to put the pressure on the shoulders of a guy who has never played before on LAN is going to be scary. So my core argument for the reason why I believe this will be the pool of death, because why? I've mentioned 3, there's still 4 teams left, but for me, it's how close the top 3 are in this particular pool. FaZe and Reciprocity, I think, are at this moment probably the closest teams to each other as far as skill, and I think FaZe is getting better because Reciprocity has so far gotten the better of them in their matchups. Reciprocity knocked out FaZe in Game 5 at CWL Vegas. Reciprocity also knocked out FaZe in the December 2nd 2K, or the December 2nd Pro Down in a Game 5 as well. And in the very last Pro Down, which just took place a few days ago, E-United actually barely took out both of these teams in back-to-back rounds, both seeing a Game 5. So I think for me, FaZe and Reciprocity are just so close in skill that I think that they're starting to get better as the time goes on. And for me, Team Sween, who technically had the better placement, is the number 1 seed when we talk about that coming into this group, are starting to lose their edge because they don't have the practice. Like I said, they're not playing against top teams in the world. So while we see FaZe and Reciprocity on the rise, I think we're seeing Team Sween kind of come back toward a more level playing field. Also at CWL Vegas, S&D was the worst game mode for both Reciprocity and Team Sween. It was FaZe's second worst game mode behind Hardpoint, but I think they're rapidly going to improve with that in regards to adding Celium to the team, with players probably going to perform better, especially keeping in mind how poor of a performance that we saw Zuma have. FaZe's worst game mode was Hardpoint, and that happened to be the very best game mode for both Reciprocity and Sween at CWL Vegas. So I think these core 3 are incredibly close to each other. I think it's going to be constantly back and forth, very, very close maps between the top 3. And then also we got to talk about the rest of the groups in this particular roster, right? And I think at the beginning, I accidentally referenced the wrong pools. There actually is an official graphic which the actual teams reside on, which is what I'm going to be referencing to here now, provided by the guys at CODGamepedia. So, right, like I said, like the rest of the teams here in Pool A, like we talked about, we have Teddy Rex's team, who I think is going to be a scare and search and destroy for a lot of these top teams. That's been their strong suit and what they're known for, and what they're probably going to see success in. FaZe Black, I think this can also be a really solid group. I've been a fan of Phantom since World War II, cast over him quite a bit, and Asim seems to be a very, very solid player in his own regard from what I've been seeing on a number of different tournaments and performances. He seems to be a guy who could be on the come-up this season. Niall's team, right? They knocked out Enigma 6 in the open bracket and looked very, very solid in the early stages of Vegas, even before the official tournament started. So excited to see how Niall's team will perform. And then also the scariest 7 seed in the entire tournament, Enigma 6, like I said, who sit at the very bottom, but I think are the most impressive 7th seed out of any of these teams. You might even could throw in maybe even scariest 6th or 7th seed if you want to kind of throw it into to that as well for E6, keeping that in mind. Like I said, I don't really know what to expect for E6. Like I said, they can be an organization who can surprise you from time to time, so I'm not counting them out by any means. But my biggest worry is that a lot of the teams who are at the top, our top 3, they struggle in search and destroy. I looked at a lot of these groups. I looked at a lot of these teams who were in that kind of bottom 4 category. A lot of them known for search and destroy. A lot of them are known to surprise. And a lot of these teams I've commentated before World War II and are starting to make a rise as far as being top semi-pros in their own regard. Like I said, and talking about the other groups, I think for me, I need to see more from G2. I'm still not a fan of Envy right now as far as Group B is considered, so I think that one will be somewhat clear-cut. As far as Group C is considered, I think that one's pretty clear-cut as well. I'm definitely going Spacely's team in 100T at this very moment. And for Pool D, I think that one is pretty much already decided by the top 2 teams at the top. You maybe could see something come out of UYU, but I just don't think they're ready for it yet. And the new Mind Freak could also make some noise. But who is your pool of death? Right, I talked about mine. Mine's Pool A. Many have argued maybe even Pool B. I get a pass for that. The other 2 I'm just not seeing. But make sure, guys, to get involved in the social game, get involved on Twitter by using the hashtag the Esports Dispatch, and let your voice be heard.